When the headlines stir anxiety, you can help steady hearts with God's Word. North Texas Giving Day is September the 18th, but you don't have to wait. You can begin giving right now, and your gift will be doubled by a $75,000 matching grant to help us reach a $420,000 goal. So please, give today at denisonforum.org/North Texas to help more people hear biblical insight through this daily article podcast and other Denison Forum content so they can think clearly, live faithfully, and follow Jesus with courage. This is your opportunity to make twice the impact at a moment when clarity and hope are desperately needed. When others stir division, you can help cultivate discernment. When others exploit outrage, you can inspire obedience. And when others push fear, you can offer hope that lasts. Please give today at denisonforum.org/North Texas or find the link to give in today's podcast episode notes. Help ensure more believers stand firm and shine the light of Christ in a confused and divided world. It's Friday, September the 5th, 2025, and you've joined us for Denison Forum's Daily Article Podcast. Welcome. I'm Chris Elkins, narrating today's daily article written by our senior editor for theology, Dr. Ryan Denison. Truth Rising, a documentary developed through a partnership between Focus on the Family and the Colson Center, premieres today at noon Eastern Standard Time, and I highly recommend making time to watch it. It's free to stream, and as creators describe, the film is a call to action at a critical time in our culture. A link to it is in today's podcast episode notes. However, what I appreciated most about the film is that it provides both a realistic assessment of the state of Western civilization as well as reasons for optimism grounded in the fact that God is still at work using His people to offer redemption and hope to a world desperately in need of both. The documentary begins with Os Guinness, a brilliant author, theologian, and social critic, examining the ways in which other civilizations have declined and fallen in the past to use as comparisons when evaluating the degree to which our current civilization is following in their footsteps. To that end, he outlines how we are at a civilization moment, which he defines as the time when a culture loses touch with the inspiration that created it. When that moment occurs, he shows how there are really only three options for what comes next: renew the original inspiration, or replace the original inspiration, or decline. As made clear by both he and John Stonestreet, the president of the Colson Center and host for the second part of the discussion, the original inspiration for Western civilization is the sense of Judeo-Christian morality that undergirds our most foundational beliefs. But while Guinness and Stonestreet are equipped to outline that reality by themselves, I appreciate the way they incorporate the views of others in this conversation. Throughout the documentary, they speak with a host of experts who bring unique perspectives and experiences to the discussion that both add context and nuance. And though the contributions of Ayaan Hirsi Ali, Konstantin Kisin, and others in the first half of the film are excellent, the personal stories of those interviewed by Stonestreet in the latter half often stood out the most. In the film's second part, Stonestreet interviews a number of individuals who have been canceled or threatened for their beliefs. The accounts of Ayaan Hirsi Ali, who shares more of her story in this part, Jack Phillips, Seth Dillon, and others demonstrate how God redeemed the trials they faced in ways that often expanded their ministry while providing opportunities that couldn't have happened otherwise. They don't minimize how hard those times were, but they do point to what God has done through them. Remembering the Lord's ability to take what man intends for evil and turn it into good is vital, when so much of what we see around us tends to draw our focus towards the negative. God does not call us to a naive ignorance of the problems we face, nor does He permit us to give up on being part of the solution, as noted in Matthew 5, verses 13 through 16. Learning to do both is a key element of living out our identity as Christians. As Stone Street describes, quote, Christians must remember who they are, people of the resurrection, and therefore people of hope, end quote. If our solution to the state of our culture is to hunker down and wait for the world to hit rock bottom, then we're doing Christianity wrong. Jesus entered a world with no moral compass outside the vague philosophical ideas of right and wrong that people were free to disregard. And even in his more immediate context, where the Jewish people still professed, and typically lived in accordance with, a desire to please the Lord, their approach to doing so was rooted in the kind of legalism and performative religiosity that was slowly suffocating any chance at a personal, intimate relationship with the Father. In response, Christ met the people where they were, showed them a better path forward, and then was willing to pay the price for not flinching from God's truth when it contradicted the cultures. Now, he calls us to do the same. Fortunately, we don't have to look very far for the chance to make a difference. In our conversation with John Stone Street on today's special edition of Faith and Clarity, a link to which is in today's podcast episode notes, he makes the point that when he first started teaching on worldview and culture, many of the warning signs like shifting gender norms and postmodernism were theoretical. There were indications, but not necessarily evidence, that this is where our society was headed. That's no longer the case. Many of those problems are now present, and they're having a dramatic impact on the way our civilization functions. Moreover, an ever-increasing part of the population is coming to realize that the secular alternatives just aren't working. As John goes on to describe, the reasoning among those who left the church used to be that, quote, the church has let them down, and now we have a whole bunch of young people who are going back to church talking about how secularism has let them down. So, what an opportunity right now for truth to rise, end quote. This is truly an exciting time to be a follower of Christ. Many of society's solutions to humanity's problems are beginning to crumble. This brings us to the question each of us must answer. Will we help them rebuild on the foundation of God's truth, or will we sit back and watch as they try in vain to reconstruct those walls on a new set of lies? When those who have wronged us suffer the consequences of their sin, it can be tempting to find pleasure in their pain. Many of the stories in Truth Rising demonstrate what it looks like to choose a better path, one that is more in line with Christ's example. When Jesus looked out at the people who were desperate for something more than the lies and half-truths that defined their culture, he was filled with compassion, revealed in Matthew 9, verse 36. Will the same be true for us? Will it be true for you? The Denison Forum team is grateful for our daily article podcast subscribers. Please share the podcast with others. And for more news discerned differently, visit denisonforum.org.